Whenever I hear the words Need for Speed, I can't help but think about my childhood. Growing up, racing games were a huge part of my life, and they played a significant role in my love for cars and who I am. Now, let me take it back to the early 2000s when I first got my hands on a racing game. I was probably in the 4th grade when one of my friends accidentally brought his older brother's CD wallet to school to show off all the games he had. While I was flipping through the wallet, there it was in all its glory, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. This is the game that started it all for me. Now, Need for Speed has been a staple in the racing game industry since its first release in 1994, and over the years the franchise has seen numerous ups and downs, but has remained a fan favorite. One of the most common misconceptions I see with the franchise is how most people think the roots of the franchise starts in the underground era, which is wrong. The underground era may not represent the roots, but it absolutely represents the all-time high of the franchise. Whenever I look back at the series, it truly peaked during the 2003 and up until 2006. During this 4-year period, Need for Speed would cement its name in racing game history forever. Now, let's not forget, Most Wanted 2005 is still the most sold game in the entire franchise with 16 million copies, followed by Need for Speed Underground 1 with 15 million and Underground 2 having 7 million. The franchise would not see such high numbers for many years to come. So, what happened?
It was perfect, but no, you just had to blow it up. You and your pride and your ego. You just had to be the man. If you'd done your job, known your place, we'd all be fine right now.
Having their first release in 1994, the first game, which was the Need for Speed, was made in collaboration with a car magazine named Road and Tracks. The first installment of the Need for Speed was the only serious attempt by the franchise to provide a realistic simulation of car handling elements through the direct collaboration of staff members from Road and Track. Now, Electronic Arts left the handling dynamics tuning with the automotive magazine's seasoned drivers to match vehicle behavior, including realistic over and understeer mechanics that remain impressive decades later, as well as sounds made by the vehicle's gear control levers and other functions. The game contained big deal game data with spoken commentary, several magazine-style images of each car, and short clips highlighting the vehicles set to music. Most cars and tracks were available at the beginning of the game, and the objective is to unlock the remaining locked content by winning tournaments. This version featured chases by police cars, a popular theme throughout the series.
It can sometimes take years to develop a series-winning race car, but not for the AMG engineers who developed the sensational Mercedes CLK GTR. From the initial go-ahead by Mercedes-Benz to serious track testing, it took 128 days, an astonishing feat considering the complexity of today's racing cars for international competition.
Need for Speed would continue to release new games after this, most notable ones being Hot Pursuit, where the player either attempted to outrun the police or be the cop arresting speeders. Need for Speed 3 took advantage of the multimedia capabilities by featuring audio commentary, picture slideshows, and music videos. This game was the first in the series to allow the downloading of additional cars from the official website. As a result, modding communities sprang up to create vehicles.
The Porsche 911 Turbo is the last and fastest of a line of thoroughbred sports cars that dates back to the original 911 of 1963. Even before that, sports car fans the world over delighted to earlier Porsches like the famed 356 Spider. Based on the 911 Carrera, the Turbo uses wider rear bodywork to accommodate rear wheels and tires of almost race car proportions. A big rear spoiler helps maintain
Now,
stability
Need
at
for
the
Speed High Stakes, which featured more realistic elements than its predecessors and introduced a damage system that allows cars to take damage when colliding with objects, affecting their appearance and performance. It also introduced a series of economy-based tournaments awarding players with a cash prize that can be spent on repairing, purchasing, or upgrading cars for subsequent races. The game's Hot Pursuit mode, which was introduced in Hot Pursuit, was expanded with more options, allowing players to control police pursuits attempting to stop races. Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed did something that modern games can't realistically do anymore. Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed is often regarded as one of the best, if not the best, installment of the Need for Speed series. I was having fun in Need for Speed High Stakes, I'm sorry about that, but ultimately having to put the game down because it was way too punishing when you lose a high stakes race. I looked forward to this title because it seemed to be so meaningful to so many fans. I finished both the Factory Driver mode and the Evolution mode. Now, Evolution starts out with old cars that drive very slowly but are still challenging to handle. I immediately felt how the physics model was immensely satisfying, and the sense of progress as your cars would slowly become faster and better to handle was great. The game puts up a challenge by having a few opponents that always drive very well, but having their own characteristics. However, the driving itself is already very challenging, as getting your car through a race undamaged is quite tough. In Evolution, you manage your own money, buy cars to participate in races, and upgrade and repair them. Damaged cars are significantly harder and less fun to drive, so in every race there's a challenge to keep your car on the road. As I said earlier, combine that with a physics model that's just awesome to drive and gives every car its own characteristic, and you have a formula for constant fun. Although it's annoying to damage your car, the game never punishes you too heavily so you can stay on course and hardly feel discouraged to take on the next race. I was banging my desk a bit, so sorry if you hear some desk banging in the audio, I'm very sorry for that. Next up, Factory Driver Mode, a fun series of challenges that doesn't waste your time. Factory Driver consists of a few other challenges and presents a story instead of managing your own cars. A car is just provided per challenge. The story honestly doesn't add much, but doesn't get in the way either. The challenges range from parkour challenges, sometimes trials through environments with traffic and cops, and some races with and without traffic and cops. It's quite short and it doesn't waste your time at all because it just hops from mission to mission. I had a lot of fun driving these challenges, and I love the pace with which you can run through them. Then there's the attention to detail. I'm not a big fan of the Porsche brand and their cars. I have to say this again. I'm not a big fan of Porsche. Wait, what? Then there's the attention to detail. I'm not that big of a fan of Porsche brand. Okay, I'm not a big fan of Porsche and their cars, but it cannot be ignored how much effort they put into creating detailed models, both exterior and interior, inclusion of historical material. It's all love letter to the cars. Progression through starting with older cars and ending with newer ones is also something I'm really fond of. Not many games do that anymore.
31 County.
I copy 31.
Turning on a speeder that just flew by me.
Now, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 was simply a masterpiece. That is, if you played the PS2 version, which is why I can't say much about it. But if you haven't tried it, you need to play the PS2 version of the game. Early Need for Speed games used to have a whole section dedicated to showcasing each car with detailed information about its history and performance, as well as the history of the brand. Not unlike what you'd find in car magazines. Everyone talks about how they want more customization. How about the ability to learn more about the car they plan to customize? The classic era of Need for Speed games never really made a massive impact, since it never really was following trends, but was purely made for car enthusiasts. Underground and Underground 2 played a root role in popularizing the franchise, since they were heavily inspired by the popular car scene of the early 2000s. These games, along with the early Fast and Furious movies and stuff like Initial D, are the reasons most people even knew what words like drifting or NOS meant. Underground rebooted the franchise, ignoring the previous Need for Speed games which featured sports cars and exotics. It was the first game in the series to offer a career mode featuring a storyline and a garage mode that allowed players to fully customize their cars with a large variety of brand name, performance and visual upgrades. All races take place in the fictional Olympic City rather than exotic cars. Underground featured vehicles associated with the import scene. Underground was critically and commercially successful and was followed by Need for Speed Underground 2 in 2004. The game entails tuning cars for street races, resuming the Need for Speed Underground storyline. Need for Speed Underground 2 brought several new features such as broader customization, new methods of selecting races set in the city known as Bayview. The game's storyline is presented in a comic book strip. When Underground series came out, the sales increased massively. It also set a new style that we still see and still have people who want that. It's not the roots, but it's by far the most popular era of the franchise. Now, Need for Speed 2005. I'm not going to say anything about it since enough has been said about this game. You can probably search up a way more better documentary about this game, so I'm going to leave like a link down in the comments below of like videos you can watch about Need for Speed 2005, because I felt like I didn't have to say anything about it since a lot has been already said. But this was just part 1 of this series. In part 2, we're going to be talking about the more modern games. I just wanted to talk about the first few ones because those are the ones I actually like, and I got super lazy writing the script. I know I am a lazy person, I'm very lazy, but thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in part 2, I guess. Bye. That was such a weird thing to say, but bye guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.